there is only one place to start, and that is on the ITV Meltdown. Caroline Frost, entertainment journalist. Caroline, a very good afternoon to you. I can't believe it, with Phillip Schofield coming out and saying what he was saying. Now that I've left This Morning, I can have a go. I no longer work on This Morning. I am free to say this. I hope you've noticed that it's the same handful of people with a grudge against me on the show who seem to have the loudest voice. In all the years I worked there, there was no toxicity. Add to that, Eamonn Holmes has had his return say as well. And Eamonn doesn't quite get so vociferous as this on many occasions. Obviously feels that he's going to make sure that he is going to have the things to say that really happened. Schofield has just put out a delusional statement. Like Holly, he puts it on Insta stories, so if it goes wrong there, there is no record after 24 hours. I'm reluctant to give the liar any more publicity, but believe me, Pip, if you are looking for a fight, you have picked on the wrong person. What do you make of all this, Caroline, this morning?
Well, we've come a long way from those early weeks of 2020 when Phillip Schofield came out on air, and the first people to hug him were Holly, Eamonn and Ruth. How things change, I guess. I mean, we at the moment, a week is a long time in TV show business. So that was, what, 3 years ago now? My goodness, I don't think they would have imagined that they would be having this stash in public quite to this extreme. But the gloves are coming off. Interesting. I'm surprised that Phillip Schofield spoke out this morning. I would have thought he'd be busy somewhere licking his wounds, but he obviously feels that he has something to say, that there is some sort of future, professional future to protect. I'm not sure his input has the currency or the value that it had a week ago even, or 2 weeks ago, certainly, when he was still the anchor. I mean, goodness me, here we are. Where are we? Monday. Only the Friday before last was when he resigned. He fell off that perch. Up until then, one of the most important, influential people in show business.
Well, he was still doing the soap awards at that stage, and he was going to do.
Yes, there we go. You see, it's been
other things. I mean,
the dominoes have been falling, and now, as of Friday, he is fighting not to be yesterday's man. Yeah. And so I'm surprised that he's bothered to chip in. He clearly thinks there's something worth saving. I don't know that now we know he's a man who apologises for lies as and when it seems right. I don't know if that statement is worth as much as it was even a week ago. But Eamonn clearly doesn't think it's worth salt and has chipped back in again. We do love a public stash.
But the other thing is with all of this is that with Eamonn coming out in the way he has now as well, that's a message not just to Phillip Schofield, is it? It's a message to ITV. It's a message to all these bosses who we can't actually yet say what they did or didn't know, even though they seem to think that everything was rosy as far as everything was concerned, that it patently wasn't. Of course they must have known something. Of course they've got to come out. If they don't come out by tomorrow morning, they're going to have to say something then, because the share price is going to absolutely plunge. There's no doubt about that. It's already on its way. There are advertisers. Arnold Clark has said today, I've been reading it in the papers, they've withdrawn their sponsorship. Phillip Schofield already had others who advertised with him, taken things away from him and everything. This isn't going to end until everybody gets the proper story. And there are people here who need to have the proper story. And those are the viewers who have listened, who've been taken in and thought that what they were being told was the truth, when patently a lot of it isn't.
Well, there's nothing more important than the relationship with the viewer to a daytime brand, particularly. You know, at nighttime you start to surf, you start to watch Appointment to View. Daytime, and we know how valuable daytime TV is to people who are housebound, elderly, a carer. You know, these shows mean the world, and they are built on the foundations of these relationships, which have to be built on trust, that what you see is what you're getting. And Phillip Schofield has proved that not to be the case. And now these ripples are spreading wider because of the level of deceit involved. And as you've pointed out, it isn't just about him wandering around. It's about who knew what and how much covering up and enabling has been going on behind the scenes to quite a high level. I mean, everybody now, ITV is currently a brand in free fall, it would seem. It's like a big ship. I mean, when it's a sunny day and the water is calm, it glides along and makes stars and favourites of everybody. And at the moment, it's a case of who do we need to keep on the ship to ensure its smooth passage, and who do we perhaps need to jettison? And so they're all going to be, moving around trying to prove their case. I mean, we had Dermot and Alison back on TV this morning, given the horrendous job of facing the viewers and saying with a straight face, we know we happen to be in the news at the moment and we appreciate that, but from us, the crew, the team, we love making the show for you. Now, Dermot and Alison at the moment are doing nothing wrong except doing their jobs and trying to keep the bus on the road. What they must be hearing in their ears between, ad breaks and bits of cooking and various things on the show, we can only imagine. But it can't be much fun with that wobbly bus right now.
No, it can't be. And for people like Alison and Dermot, where I feel sorry for them is that their livelihood is at stake because of misdemeanours of others, and whether there have been cover-ups or not that we haven't been told about by senior management yet, even though at the moment nobody seems to think that there's been anything particularly wrong with all of this. I mean, I've been in TV and radio for 45 years. I've never been in newspapers at all. Social media has changed so much, as we well know. And I've had my moments. I've been bullied. I've also had my own rants at staff and everything as you grow up and what have you. But this is totally different. This is very different. But I have also had bosses who have just decided it is easier to get rid of irritants than it is to get rid of those that are really causing the problem.
The favourite, the teacher's pet.
Absolutely.
Well, Ranveer Singh was pretty much hinting at that at the weekend when he made that extraordinary statement, which would be capturing all the headlines today still if it wasn't for this latest out between Mr. Schofield and Mr. Holmes. But he was saying that he raised his concerns about, what should we call it, the culture, for want of a better actual term, the culture, the favourites, the power in too few hands, the lack of care for other people behind the scenes. And he raised his concerns, and he found that he featured on the show less. So it's exactly what you're describing, the disruptors, the people, the whistleblowers, the ones who put their heads above the parapet and dare to speak out. When that happens to them, you can see why for other people who have mortgages to pay, children to feed, they're not going to feel inclined to do that, and not that they feel they would be listened to. I mean, for Phillip Schofield to last this long with these secrets and this web of lies and deceit that has been going on for, clearly longer than we realise, shows just how embedded it is that there are favourites for whom different rules apply.
Now, there will also be a lot of people in my business, in this business, in other business, who have agents. Now, I had to have an agent when I worked at Sky because the bosses wouldn't speak to me at all. They didn't want the embarrassment of not giving me what I wanted and all that sort of stuff. And I was with Knight Ayton. I was so far down their pecking order, it was a waste of time. So I got rid of them and jettisoned that. And yes, I've had my moments, and like many people, I've had contracts cancelled or not renewed, and off you go and you do it again. There is obviously now, with presenters, and we are talking about all sorts of presenters, not just Phillip Schofield here and Holly Willoughby, but who are more than just presenters. They actually are basically running where they work, seemingly, and at the same time part of the agency that's doing all the deals for them. This is so unhealthy, it is extraordinary, and I think they all need investigating as well.
It may be that this is what topples that. I know what you're talking about. I mean, there's one particular agency who seem to have ITV daytime all but sewn up, and because they're in that very powerful position, which we used to see back in Hollywood in the golden age, where if you don't look after person A, who might be a smaller fish, don't expect to get person B doing you any favours, and who is a bigger fish, who is in that same stable. So you get this collective power through so many different names and faces, big brands we're talking about being on your books. And of course, that gives those individuals who are being represented a huge amount of power and control and protection, so that somebody like Phillip Schofield, who is not only the big name brand on the books of, in his case, YMU agency, but is also a director of it. So it's all very it's incestuously close and intimate, all this going on. But they have a bunch of other people on those books as well. Holly committed the sort of the ecosystem crime of leaving that agency a few years ago. And that was the bit of the tiny rip in the cloth between the pair of them a few years ago, where they started to go their different ways. And perhaps her brand has now been in the ascendant in recent years. We've seen her present I'm a Celeb. She's been in demand for BBC gigs, in which she does not need Phillip Schofield the way she needed him in 2007 when they started out together. But whether she will last the course, as I say, whether she'll stay on the ship and it will continue to make smooth passage, we will have to wait and see. I mean, the story's changing on an hour by hour basis.
And just very quickly, a final thought on all of this is that if he's not done anything wrong, I mean, to have an affair with somebody, an adult affair, perhaps you're not allowed to do that, I don't know, at ITV with others and what have you. But if there is anything more than that, then I understand why he might have gone. But if he's just done that and everybody would have said, well, it was perfectly legal, or the rules weren't broken, it's life and everything like that, why have we got into such a mess as ITV have got themselves into? There must be other things that
for sure. But what we're not seeing, Mark, is, do you remember when Ant McPartlin, he crashed his car, he was drunk, it was presented as an addiction problem. There was a lot of sympathy for him, and there was a groundswell of media and fellow celebrity support. There is a deafening silence in Phillip Schofield's case where that support came for Ant. And I think that was key to his swift turnaround, his recovery for him, his rehabilitation for the Ant and Dec brand and for the ITV ship to continue with those two on the deck. We are not hearing those fellow supportive people coming out. Nobody is coming out for Phillip Schofield right now. I think Piers Morgan made a bit of a stab about the pylon was a bit unhealthy, but the story's changed even since then.
It certainly has. Caroline Frost, thank you very much indeed with your insight and expertise.